Hello everyone, thank you for 10,000 subscribers on the channel. I am very happy that you like my videos. Well, today we are going to dedicate our video to such a character as JAX. But before we start the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and write a comment. Here we go. JAX is the most unique character of the whole digital circus, because the contradiction that flies around him has no one else. Even Kane, despite all the secrets around him, couldn't get close to JAX. In the end, one half thinks this rabbit is the best character in the circus, and the other half hates him. Let's think about why he gets so much hate. JAX is too defiant, some might even say rude. Nevertheless, many people see him as a role model because he has very interesting phrases that fans have already added to their lexicons and use often, or his jokes about other circus residents. But if you think about it, behind the mask of these so-called jokes, there is banal humiliation. After all, he never physically abused Zubul because he knew that this interesting character would quickly put him in his place and would not be offended, unlike Gangle, who often suffers humiliation at the hands of JAX. And from the example of the relationship between JAX and Gangle, you can see that JAX considers himself almost a god and is sure that he can do whatever his soul wants. A lot of people blame Kane and think he's the real evil of the digital circus, but he's never, or we've never seen him mock other characters. Maybe we are all wrong and the real villain is just our interesting rabbit JAX, because so far we have only seen the pilot episode of the amazing digital circus. Maybe in the next episode we will see a situation that will completely change our opinion of JAX, or maybe he'll be a traitor in the future. But why did the rest of the fandom love him so much? I think a lot of people liked JAX for his straightforwardness, not thinking about the consequences of his words and just saying what he thinks. This may not be very tactful to the other denizens of the digital circus, but on the other hand, his words are the truth. So far, I have never heard JAX lie to anyone, except when JAX sarcastically told Kinger and Gangle that Kaufmo was fine. But is that a lie? That's for you to decide. So it was honesty that was one of the key factors why so many, including Gooseworx, loved JAX so much, even if they jokingly call him a terrible boy. But the most important thing that attracts many to JAX is his sarcasm, as he is definitely the best of all the characters in the amazing digital circus. Let's summarize JAX's personality and use it to further analyze what might happen to JAX in the future and more. We will also find out who our good or not so good JAX really is. We all remember JAX as one of the most active characters we were shown in the pilot episode. In addition, we already found out that he elevates himself above others, and that attitude towards others is what best characterizes the character, even better than his character. It's also important to note that JAX never calls anyone by name, but instead gives everyone hurtful nicknames. For example, he calls Kinger crazy and Gangle a crybaby. But why does JAX act so rude to everyone instead of trying to make friends? It is also immediately obvious that all the other inhabitants of the digital circus are not exactly friendly to JAX. Perhaps JAX realized a long time ago that there was no way for him to get out of this amazing digital circus, so he needed to find a hobby that would keep him amused during all the days he would be living in this digital hell. And here the best idea seemed to be to start making fun of everyone, thus worsening the already not very pleasant life of the poor inhabitants of the circus. I think JAX chose such a position because he realizes that everyone else will have to interact with him anyway, because their life is a show that is watched by thousands, if not millions of people in real life. But we'll talk about that later. In the end, we can say that JAX is a really unpleasant character, but being unpleasant and being a villain are two very different things. So let's find out who JAX really is. JAX is a villain. Agreed, that's a bit of a bold statement, so it's time to prove it. We can definitely say that JAX is not the most pleasant character, we found that out earlier, but can we say that all his actions are aimed at harming other characters of the digital circus? I don't think so. Even though his little mischief is directed negatively at other characters, he only does it to satisfy his own needs. You could even say to satisfy his ego, or to prove to himself that he's the coolest. There are a lot of possibilities, but he certainly doesn't intend for anyone to be harmed by his actions. But if JAX is not a villain, then I can safely call him a future traitor. I have no right to claim this completely, but I can provide evidence to support my theory. The strangest thing JAX did during his time in the circus was to show a bunch of keys and claim that he had keys to all the other characters' rooms. When asked by Regatha where he got them, JAX couldn't give a definitive answer, just the excuse that he had keys to every room in the digital circus. And I'm not just talking about the character rooms, maybe he has access to some secret rooms. Doesn't that strike you as odd? I do. So I can say that JAX is theoretically an agent of Kane. Because how does he have the keys to everything in the circus? And why does Kane, knowing that, because he claims to know absolutely everything that goes on in the amazing digital circus, does nothing to ensure the safety and privacy of all the inhabitants? And he does not because he is sure that JAX has no right to do anything without his orders. Also note how calm JAX is the moment they see Kaufmo. Even though JAX pretends to be scared at first, when he meets Kinger and Gangle, he acts completely normal as if nothing has happened. He's not worried about his former roommate's life at all. There was also a theory on the internet that JAX is actually an artificial intelligence that Kane created to help him keep track of everything that happens and everyone who lives. But I don't believe it because Gooseworx disproved it a long time ago when they revealed how old each of the characters are, and artificial intelligence has no age. You can go into conspiracy theories and look for conspiracies everywhere, but I think Gooseworx didn't try to confuse anyone and told us everything as it is. Everyone knows that in the vastness of the digital circus, Kane is omnipotent. He can do whatever he wants. I mean, think back to that very strange moment when JAX, Kinger, and Gangle went down into Glowing's cave. The moment JAX finally went down, he was able to break the sign that said spare. This seems like nothing out of the ordinary, but if you look closely, you can see that this sign is digital. The question then becomes, how could an ordinary citizen do something he had no control over? Maybe JAX isn't an ordinary person after all. And the most important detail that fully confirms the connection between Kane and JAX is the fourth wall. For those who don't know what it is, the fourth wall is an address or communication to the audience of the show, from characters who cannot interact with us in any way. I hope I've made myself clear. Remember how Kane constantly broke this so-called fourth wall, even in the beginning when he addressed us by introducing the whole circus and each character individually. Even during the exposition, Kane's gaze was directly on us. And now remember the moment when JAX was talking to all the other characters. At one point he was looking right at us. Take a closer look and you'll see that's really true. All of this really creeps me out and makes me think more and more that JAX isn't just a guy who likes to joke around and make fun of the other characters, but a real villain working alongside Kane. Write in the comments what you think of this theory. It seems reasonable, but I think a lot of this will be explained to us in future episodes or in posts on one of the Gooseworx social media channels. Although maybe JAX is the villain, who knows for sure. Now, let's pretend that the whole previous part never happened, and that JAX doesn't actually wish anyone harm in the classic sense of the word. We can't deny that JAX is the cheekiest character. He really enjoys making crude jokes or bullying others, but it's all just a mask because it's the only thing that keeps his mind in a reasonable state. In one of the previous videos, we discussed this topic in more detail. If you are interested, you can watch the video by clicking on the link in the corner of the screen. So let's talk a little bit about JAX's future in the next episode. I'm pretty sure we're going to learn more about why JAX became such a bully. Maybe we'll see JAX's former life in the amazing digital circus before Pomni showed up. Also, don't rule out the possibility of seeing the real JAX without his fake negative character mask. If JAX is still a secret agent of Kane, it is likely that he will realize everything in the next episode and probably side with Pomni. On the other hand, we might see JAX's maximum rage, and in that case, one of the characters will definitely go crazy, because the life of all the inhabitants is not the most pleasant, and with the daily abuse, their mental state will give the final crack. Somehow, I'm sure that in this case, the main target will be our poor Gangle. I hope you watch this video till the end because it means you are the best and you really like my videos. I have plans to make a very cool video that you can be a part of, and also I wish you success and good luck, and it's time for me to tell you to see you in new videos, and a new video appears on my channel every 2 days.